Talia stood in front of the mirror, gently brushing her shoulder-length brown hair. She gazed at her reflection with soft brown eyes, the same eyes that had seen dreams of a future that now felt more like a memory than a plan. For as long as she could remember, Talia had wanted to be a hairdresser. She had spent her teenage years practicing different hairstyles on her friends, attending beauty workshops, and watching countless tutorials online. Every brushstroke, every curl she created felt like a step toward her future. It was her passion, the one thing she was sure of. But something had shifted. Something deep inside her had changed, and it happened faster than she could explain. The dream of becoming a hairdresser, once so vivid and clear, seemed to fade into the background. A new, unexpected ambition began to take root in her heart. She wanted to join the army. It wasn't that Talia had grown disillusioned with the idea of being a hairdresser. No, that dream still had a place in her heart, but as she neared the end of her high school years, she found herself drawn to the challenge and discipline of military life. Maybe it was the sense of adventure, or the desire to do something bold and brave, something that felt larger than herself. Whatever the reason, by the time she turned 18 and graduated, she was resolute in her decision. Talia's family was surprised, to say the least. Her mother had always envisioned her setting up a cozy salon, perhaps with a corner chair by the window where Talia could style hair while chatting with regular customers. Her father, while supportive, couldn't hide his worry. "The army is no small commitment, Talia. Are you sure?" he asked her one evening, his voice gentle but lined with concern. "I've thought about it, Dad. I really have," she replied confidently. "It's something I feel I need to do. I want to push myself, see what I'm capable of. It's not just about being strong physically. It's about discipline, teamwork, and serving something bigger than myself." He nodded slowly, knowing that when Talia set her mind on something, there was little anyone could do to change it. "Just promise me you'll stay safe, whatever happens." "I will," she smiled, though she knew full well the army came with its risks. Within weeks, Talia was filling out applications and attending recruitment meetings. It all felt like a whirlwind. The paperwork, the interviews, and of course the physical training she had to complete to even be considered for service. She had always been active, running and playing sports throughout high school, but military training was on another level. This wasn't about looking good or staying fit for the sake of it. This was about endurance, strength, and survival. The first day of physical training was grueling. The instructors took no time to ease them in. They were immediately met with long-distance runs, obstacle courses, and strength tests. Talia found herself pushed to the limit, her muscles burning and her breath coming in sharp gasps as she struggled to keep up. Yet every time she felt like she couldn't take another step, a new surge of determination would kick in, driving her forward. She refused to give up. She could hear the other recruits around her grumbling, some faltering, but Talia pushed through. Her focus wasn't on the pain or exhaustion, it was on the goal. She wanted to prove that she had what it took to join the army, to be more than the girl who dreamed of becoming a hairdresser. Each day of training was harder than the last, but with each passing day, she got stronger. By the end of the training period, she had not only passed, but excelled. Her instructors were impressed, and she was officially allowed to join the army. When the news came, she was overjoyed. She could hardly believe it. She, Talia, was now a soldier in the making. Her family congratulated her, her friends were in awe, but with the pride came an unexpected complication. The day she received her acceptance, she was called into a small office for a briefing. A tall, stern-faced officer greeted her, clipboard in hand. "Everything looks good, Talia," the officer said, his eyes scanning over the documents. "You've passed all the required tests and you're set to begin your formal training in a few weeks. There's just one more thing we need to address." Talia furrowed her brow, unsure of what was coming. She had done everything asked of her. What else could there be? "Your hair," the officer said bluntly, setting the clipboard down. "My hair." Talia instinctively reached up to touch her thick brown locks. It had always been one of her defining features. Growing up, people always complimented her hair, and she took great care of it. Yes, in the army, hair needs to meet regulation standards. For female soldiers, that means it either needs to be cut short or kept tied back in a neat ponytail. Unfortunately, your current length is not permissible. Talia felt a pang of disappointment. She had always known that joining the army meant adhering to strict rules, but she hadn't given much thought to how it would affect her appearance. Her hair had been a part of her identity for so long. "You have two options," the officer continued, his tone matter-of-fact. "You can either tie it back, ensuring it's always neat and within regulation, or you can shave it all off. It's entirely up to you." Talia blinked in surprise. Shave her head? The idea seemed almost unthinkable. She had spent years caring for her hair, perfecting it, experimenting with styles. And now she was faced with the choice of cutting it all away. The thought of tying it back every day seemed simple enough. But something about that didn't sit right with her. Talia had always been one to embrace change, to take things head on. If she was going to join the army, why not go all in? For a moment, she looked at herself in the officer's small mirror, imagining what she might look like bald. It was a strange thought, but the more she entertained it, the more it appealed to her. There was something freeing about it. A part of her had always clung to her hair, as if it was a safety net. Shaving it off would be a bold statement, a commitment to the path she had chosen. "I'll go bald," she said finally, her voice steady. The officer raised an eyebrow but didn't seem surprised. "Are you sure?" "Once it's gone, it'll be a while before it grows back." Talia nodded. "Yes, I'm sure." "Very well, the barber's down the hall," the officer said, gesturing toward the door. As Talia made her way to the barber, she felt a mixture of nervousness and excitement. She had never done something so drastic with her appearance before. When she entered the small, sterile room, the barber, an older man with kind eyes, greeted her with a nod. "So, you're here for the big chop, huh?" he said, running his hand over the clippers. Talia smiled nervously. "Yeah, I guess so." "Don't worry, you're not the first," he reassured her. "A lot of recruits go for the shave when they join. It's a fresh start." She sat down in the chair, her heart pounding as the barber draped the cape over her. As he picked up the clippers and turned them on, the buzzing sound filled the room. Talia closed her eyes, feeling the vibrations as the clippers moved over her scalp, and strands of her brown hair began to fall to the floor. It was a strange sensation, both foreign and liberating. When the barber was finished, Talia opened her eyes and looked at herself in the mirror. Her head was completely shaved, her brown eyes now even more prominent. It was a dramatic change, but as she stared at her reflection, she felt an overwhelming sense of relief. It was as if a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. She no longer felt tied to her past, to the girl who had dreamed of being a hairdresser. She was something new, someone ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. "How does it feel?" the barber asked, sweeping the fallen hair from the floor. Talia ran a hand over her smooth scalp, smiling. "It feels good, really good." "Glad to hear it," the barber said with a chuckle. "Good luck out there." As she left the barber shop, Talia felt lighter, not just physically, but emotionally too. She had shed more than just her hair. She had shed the doubts and fears that had been holding her back. Now she was truly ready for the army. Her decision to go bald became a symbol of her commitment, not just to the army, but to herself. She was no longer the girl who was unsure of her future, clinging to an old dream. She was a soldier, and she was ready for whatever came next.